Roman Travers, Magic Talk.
Bridgette Jackson is a separation, conflict and relationship coach. She's also a qualified lawyer and has a postgraduate dispute resolution qualification. Bridgette has launched Equal Exes Online, an online divorce separation platform that assists everyday New Zealanders navigate their way through divorce and separation. Oh, yuck! I just hate reading that.
I know it's such a terrible time, isn't it, Roman? Good morning, by the way. Good morning.
Oh, that's what I meant to say was good morning, not oh yuck. But isn't divorce? It's like being told you've got 6 months to live. It's a horrible word, isn't it?
It is, but I have set up my business because I want it to be looked at in a different way. Really turning the negative into positive.
Is that possible?
It's possible. It absolutely is possible. I've been very encouraged since I've had this business in the last couple of years. It's really great. Yeah.
Look, I know that most people in business love to tell you that business is booming. Yours is, but that's not necessarily a good thing, is it, for society?
No, it isn't. But sadly, but wonderfully, I can help. Absolutely. With COVID, my business increased in terms of at least 30%. So there was a 30% rise in divorce and separation during that period. China was about 38%, actually.
Wow.
And
what was going on in China that we didn't have going on?
Well, the same sort of things, but potentially they perhaps spend less time at home and more time working is my assumption.
Actually, can I just tell you, a friend of mine who is Chinese, she talks about the fact that we are quite lazy. They start at 9 in the morning, they finish at 9 at night, seriously, and they do that 6 days a week.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are lazy.
Ooh,
we are.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
So it would be the most stressful time in anyone's life. I can say that because it was for me. Is that the truth?
Oh, absolutely. It's at the top of the stress continuum. There's no doubt about that. And really, it's all about how you deal with it at the outset, because people really have issues in terms of managing their emotions. So that is the most difficult part. But that sets the scenes for whether or not it's going to be a conflict-driven divorce separation or whether it's going to end up being amicable. That's what I believe.
Now, I just need to remind our listener that if you want to get involved, I warmly encourage you to. If you've got 1 foot out the door and you're looking for 50 ways to leave your lover, you don't need 50. One good one is enough. 0800 844 747 and get some advice from Bridgette Jackson here. So, what seems to be the recurring theme? Why are couples separating?
Communication. Lack of.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
There we go.
It comes down to that, right?
Oh, that is a really pertinent one. If you're not able to communicate, how can you actually live in a household together and actually work on those issues that you both have? I liken it to a pot plant, Roman. So if you're feeding it and nourishing it and giving it love, then it will flourish. Whereas if you don't feed it and it just wilts and dies and you don't water it. Because a relationship is a living entity. You're not coexisting, independently. So it's really important that if you really want the marriage or de facto relationship to work, then you've really got to want it. Both of you, not just one of you. And it's certainly not. One of the issues, John Gottman maintains that 90%, if you've got contempt in your relationship, then 90% of those marriages and de facto relationships will end.
One thing that has never failed to surprise me is this person that you loved. Oh my God, I can't wait to be with you every day. And then you marry them and then you can't wait to not be with them.
Yeah.
And just how toxic, and I don't mean this is not humorous, and just how the stuff that people go through before they make that call to leave, the psychological bullying, the physical bullying, whatever it might be. What are you seeing?
Oh, a lot of that, a lot of verbal abuse, a lot of physical abuse, gaslighting. It's just, it amazes me, and how someone you can love and potentially have children with actually turns to absolute hatred. What I think, if you're looking at wanting to go into another relationship, you need to actually ask each other 100 questions. What is your parenting style like? How do you manage your finances? Actually at the outset, plan about what your life is going to look forward rather than having surprises. For example, talk about whether you want to have children or not, because there's no compromise, there's no half a baby there, is there?
No, you can't be a little bit pregnant. When would you ask those questions? Not on the first Bumble date, would you?
Oh, no, you'd be running in the other direction, I think, if that happened.
Yeah.
No, I think generally after 3 to 6 months, I think you realise whether or not someone is who could potentially be permanently in your life, because you can the idiosyncrasies that you can cope with, all of that sort of comes out at that at that time period. So I think 3 to 6 months is certainly a time to be asking the 100 questions if you think there's some permanency there.
All right, Bridgette Jackson here, separation, divorce, conflict resolution coach from Equal Exes Online. Now tell me, I had a great question and it's just gone because I went back to introduce you again. Gaslighting. What the heck does that mean?
Well, that basically means really what happens is people are trying to, how do you put it? People are trying to get a reaction out of somebody and trigger them, because people, when they're in a relationship, they know what triggers people off. So they create sort of scenes that make the other person look like they're the bad person. Mm-hmm. It's all part of, the most common sort of personality disorders we have around are narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality. There's a whole range of them, and, generally people have a mix. There's normal narcissism as well. Okay, so it really depends on what is happening in terms of personalities, but that always is a big part of it, and that goes along, aligns with those sort of personality types.
Is it true still that 50% of marriages end in divorce?
Sadly, however, less people are getting married and more people are in de facto relationships these days.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe like having 3 or 4 wives would be the way to go. Maybe we need to change.
What a good idea!
I love that idea. Very expensive and quite exhausting. You'd need to be quite fit.
You would be, and you'd have to, maybe you'd want 7, because then you could have 1 for each day of the week. And you could start your own TV program like they do in America.
Exactly.
It'd be great, fantastic.
No, I wouldn't. De facto, is it much the same after how many years now?
3 years. It's 3 years. There's exclusions to that. Your de facto relationship will qualify earlier if you've had a child.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, going through the process of, okay, we've agreed to separate, we don't really like each other, in fact, we can't stand each other, you've always left the toilet seat down, hideous stuff like that. Do you need to go to a lawyer? Well,
a big piece in my business is the fact we've got to make sure that people are educated and informed across the legal and the financial, parenting and well-being, new beginnings. So it's pertinent people actually know where they are legally. I always send my clients along to a couple of lawyers, making sure that they choose one who's got the right style and approach for them for a lot of reasons, and to be informed and educated. Lawyers need to be involved, even just at the end, because there's, independently, people have got to have a lawyer who signs off on the settlement agreement. Whether that's collaborative law, so they all, both parties, if they're amicable, they can work with one legal professional and other professionals, or they independently have 2 separate lawyers. I'm a trained mediator as well, so I do a lot of informal mediations in relation to custody and relationship property. Always, though, goes to lawyers. Okay. Because at the end of the day, you've only got one chance in terms of signing that relationship property settlement agreement. Yeah. So you don't want to regret that, because it can be very difficult to overturn unless there's duress or something like that.
Alex is texting, and you can as well on 3920. You can call 0800 844 747. Alex says, Dr. Phil says, the person you marry and then divorce are 2 different people. I don't know that people change that much, but you reckon they do?
Well, it depends on each scenario. Everyone's different, doesn't it? Everyone's different behind closed doors, and some people grow. I mean, if you end up with someone you've been with since you're 16, and they're now 50, people can be quite different. Yeah. So I think the answer to that depends on the 2 people who are involved in that relationship.
I'm not a psychologist, but my deep-seated beliefs are that people don't change. They actually think they have, but they actually haven't changed.
Some people do, but they actually have to go under an intensive, really want it, and some need intensive therapy to be able to do that. So I think people can change.
All right, okay.
I've seen it.
Okay. Once a Catholic, always a Catholic. Once a racist, always a racist. Parenting, money, control, financial literacy.
Yes, or lack thereof.
Lack thereof.
Financial literacy, yeah.
Is it true that a lot of people in the big expensive cities of New Zealand, Featherston, Greytown, Auckland, Dunedin, Wellington, they often stay together because they can't afford to divorce.
Yeah, well, for a start, you're going to have two separate households, aren't you? And so you're going to need two lots of chattels. And it's very, very expensive. Your standard of living will actually inevitably decrease.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons that people stay together. One of the other reasons is that people don't want to upset the children. But however, children are resilient and strong. It does take time, and it depends how you deal with it in terms of how you tell your children what you do and don't tell them, etc. But it's a real minefield for people.
Oh, heck yeah. And don't move to places like Palmerston North because everyone wants to get divorced because they moved to Palmerston North anyway. Okay, Equal Exes Online. Quite seriously, if people are thinking of making that move,
yes,
what should they do? What's the first thing they should do?
They're wanting to leave. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the first instance, they should come and see me. I mean, I think it's very important. I see people at everyone along the process. So before people decide to separate, I do a lot of coaching and should I stay or should I go? There's still quite a few people on the fence. Mm-hmm. But if you can come and see me at the outset, that will ensure that you actually end up in an amicable place in terms of your relationship in the future. And you're also able to work through all the different areas that need to be dealt with, because getting divorced is like a job. You know that, Rome. I know that too.
Oh, heck, it's a job I didn't want.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you don't want to fill in affidavits and do all the work that comes along with it, because, you feel like your head's constantly in a cloud, and the emotional toll that it takes on you and your family is massive.
Yeah, it is indeed. Well, really good advice here. I've enjoyed catching up with you. If you want to catch up with Equal Exes Online, and Bridgette Jackson is an expert in all of the separation, conflict, relationship coaching, how do people find you?
They can find me at equalexes.com, EQUALEXES.com. They can ring me on 021 895 032, or they can they can email me, Bridgette, BRIDGETTE at equalexes.com. But yes, if you're still on the fence, or you're really unsure about what you're going to do, or you've made the decision, then look, I would love to help you and ensure that you get some sustainable outcomes in terms of the financial, and also the children. Save time, save money, save stress.
Bridgette Jackson, thank you so much for coming and making yourself available. It's always lovely to catch up with someone who has to do this kind of work, and thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you. I'm really passionate about it, and it's been a real privilege to come on this morning. Thank you. Nice.